Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. I want to talk about Derrick Jaxn, and Derrick Jaxn was a big topic of conversation last week. And I'm not going to get into the details of the gossipy side of what happened with Derrick Jaxn. You can look that up on the internet. But I saw that my friend Charlamagne, the guy from the Breakfast Club, had some comments about Derrick. And then I did a little more research, a little more Googling, and I ran across some things and some thoughts and some issues that I thought that you could benefit from. So I'm going to share this with you. So get comfortable, buckle up your seatbelt. We're going to get started on drboycetv.com right now.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to co-sign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I want to, first of all, remind everybody that we're Black first on this platform. So if you agree that the Black community comes first, put a hashtag B1 in the chat. Put your B1 in, B1, B and the number 1. That means you're Black first. That means you take care of yourself before you take care of anybody else. I think that's really important. So Derrick Jaxn was on my brain for a second today. I don't know exactly why, but I like to talk about things that I see and give you insights that I observe. And I saw that Charlemagne the God apparently, I guess, had an issue with Derrick and what Derrick was doing and that whole situation. You know, I'm Mr. Perfect, and every man who ever cheats on you or any man who ever disappoints you is a terrible person. It's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. You're wonderful and beautiful just the way you are. And if they can't accept you exactly the way you are, even if you're ratchet, mean, evil, and a horrible person, that means that he ain't shit. Black men ain't nothing. Black men are weak. Black men are pathetic. But except me, I'm Mr. Perfect. Right. So Derrick set himself up. I mean, we know that, right? Derrick Jaxn was the number 1 reason for whatever might be seen as the downfall of Derrick Jaxn. But here's the interesting thing. So I saw Charlamagne made a comment about that. He made that obvious point, which I thought was really good in terms of talking about the fact that this sort of thing is a problem, and these sorts of dehumanizing attacks on other men is part of what led Derrick to sort of be put in a corner where Derrick Jaxn didn't have support from men, because men kind of felt that he was a little bit harsh and sort of pretending to be perfect and self-righteous and everything else. Whereas the women that loved him, the women that loved to just sit there and look at him pull, you know, do videos with his shirt off, sitting in his car, or whatever, and tell them things that they wanted to hear, even they weren't supporting him because, you know, for obvious reasons, you got all the whole trail of women, and all the women, apparently you're also sleeping with interesting women who just for some reason feel the need to go on the internet and tell everybody they slept with you. I don't agree with that. I've never believed in kissing and telling, no matter what you're doing. I think sex is between 2 people, and that it should be a private thing. And you will never, ever in a million years ever hear me get online and talk about some woman that I dated or slept with or anything. I just don't think that's right. But here's the point I want to make on this. I was going through the web, and I was kind of looking to see on if there were any updates on what happened with Derrick and how that thing was going. And I found this article in the Jamaica Observer. And in this article, which there's no author on the article, but it's basically titled "How Experts Like Derrick Jaxn Ruined Our Lives." And that made me think. And in fact, I'm actually going to look at a little bit to recite some of this. Give me a yes in the chat if you can still hear me. Let me know you can still hear me okay. And please hit the thumbs up. Take 1 second, hit the thumbs up button. It's really important. That builds the channel up. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. Please do that right now as I pull this up. Okay, so the article, How Experts Like Derrick Jaxn Ruined Our Lives, it goes in to basically talking about giving direct stories of people who took advice from what they refer to as Derrick Jaxn type experts, only to be burned. Now, to be fair, this article is not just about Derrick Jaxn. It's not just about what advice he gave. It's sort of a genre, right? You've got a genre, and this is prevalent on the internet. Let me know if you know what I'm talking about. There's a genre of of experts who really ain't experts, therapists who really ain't therapists, counselors who don't know nothing about counseling, but they look good. So you like to just sit there and stare at the pretty girl telling you all the stuff that you want to hear, and you think that she must be smart because she's pretty. Or some dude, who's doing a video with his shirt off, and he's got some real sexy hazel eyes, and y'all ladies just stare at him and fantasize about meeting a perfect man that's equally handsome, who will never ever ever break your heart or make you sad or ever make you have to work to actually have a happy relationship. And I find that really interesting because it's interesting. And again, I know that I'm not going to be in the majority here. I'm not in the majority. I'm in the minority, because the majority of people don't believe in critical thinking. They don't believe in actually thinking things through, doing research, looking into what advice you're taking. And here's where this is dangerous. Let me explain to you why this is kind of a dangerous thing. And I'm going to read a little bit, a couple testimonials from women who took advice from unqualified people, and it ruined their lives. Um, the reason that this is interesting to me is because I want you to think about this for a minute. They say that your quality of life is measured by three things. Three key factors measure your quality of life. You want to know what they are? Here is what they are. The three key things that tend to measure quality of life are health, wealth, and relationships. Health, wealth, and relationships. If you see your homeboy, you ain't seen him for a while, you're like, hey man, what you been up to? Where you been? Oh man, I'm good. What you been working with? Oh really? Yeah man, I got a new job. I'm about to move to DC. That's wealth, right? I've got a new job, making more money, I'm doing good. And then let's say the guy met a chick, he met a pretty girl. Yeah man, I'm dating this girl. I met this shorty across town, and relationships. Health, let's say that he just had a surgery, right? Like a heart surgery or something. Yeah, I gotta go back. I gotta go get surgery, and we blessed. I'm taking it day by day, man. But yeah, they had to remove my whole valve and right? That's health, wealth, and relationships. Do you follow me? Are you following me now? I don't want to talk over anybody's head. I'm about to break something down for y'all right quick. So health, wealth, and relationships are the three most critical areas of your life. And if you process this, when you go get advice on your health, meaning advice on what food you should eat, advice on what medical procedure you need, or whatever the case may be, you don't go to a doctor just because they look good and they tell you, oh yeah, I know a whole lot about surgery, so let me go ahead and just open you up right quick. You don't do that, right? You want to make sure they went to medical school. They should be licensed for that, right? When you talk about wealth, a lot of you would, if you get financial advice, you'd like to get that from a licensed financial advisor or somebody that has credentials that verify, at least somebody who's made a lot of money, right? At least somebody who's made money. Maybe they're not licensed, but at least they've shown that they can make money, right? Well, in relationships, the same thing would be true. Relationships are one of the most important pillars of a happy life. If you have bad relationships, your life is going to be terrible. I mean, have you ever seen how miserable a woman is when her marriage isn't going well? If you want to see a grumpy, evil, angry woman, find a woman who's not being treated right by her man or whatever, right? Same thing's true on the other side, right? Same thing is true for men. A bad relationship will ruin your life. So my point is to say that a lot of the relationship gurus that a lot of people listen to don't know what the fuck they are talking about. They really don't. You listen to them because they sound good. People tend to listen to most relationship gurus because either A, they look good and it's something that they enjoy looking at, or two, they just sound catchy. Like it rhymes, like when they're talking, well, if it really don't hit, then don't do that shit. Right. And you'd be like, oh, that sounds so catchy. Oh, I like that. Right. Or whatever, right? They sound good or they look good, and people will take advice from a person because they sound good on the internet. And I think that what you want to consider here is the danger of allowing something as important as your relationship choices to be shaped by people who don't have any sort of data, any sort of analysis, any sort of theory, any training to back up what they're telling you to do with your life. She's on the internet telling you, Girl, if he don't do this, this, and this, you need to divorce him, girl. Take the kids and go. So you divorce him because he didn't fold his socks right in the drawer because some stupid, unqualified relationship guru on the internet that you never even met told you to do it. Next thing you know, you have ruined your children's lives for the next 30 years because they just lost their daddy. What the hell is wrong with you? Mike Tyler's asking me, boys, are you okay? Hell no, I'm not okay. It's crazy, man. It's stupid. So this ain't about Derrick Jaxn. This is not about Derrick Jaxn. This is really about you. It's about you and me. It's about us. What are we doing? Who's really qualified to tell you how to live your life? Because there's a thing in economic theory. There's a concept called a ripple effect. A ripple effect is basically when you do one thing and it leads to another thing and another thing and another thing. You might want to call it a domino effect. That's another way to call it. It's a domino effect. So I am upset in my relationship and I run into a problem with my partner that any qualified therapist with a fucking master's degree could explain on how to cope with that or how to resolve that conflict. But instead of going to a professional who knows how to handle complex disputes based on academic theory, I turn on this son of a bitch on the internet that I don't even know. A 30-year-old dude, because he looked good, because he took his shirt off while he did the video. And he tells you, no, any man who does this doesn't love you. And because he doesn't love you, you need to go and you need to end that relationship immediately and find you a man who's going to love you, even when you gain 400 pounds and wake up cussing every morning and don't show any affection whatsoever. If he can't tolerate that, that's because he's weak and he's stupid. So next thing you know, you've given up a good situation because somebody gave you bad advice. You make a decision that you're gonna regret for the next 20 years. 20 years. Has anybody ever, let's have a moment of clarity and honesty and transparency. Give me a yes or no in the chat. Has anybody ever had a relationship from the past where you sometimes look back and say, man, that was the one that got away? Like, you ever have a situation where you had a good person and you didn't know how to treat that person? And so they left, and when they left, you couldn't get them back. Or you were in love with somebody and y'all just didn't know how to communicate. Y'all couldn't figure out how to talk to each other. And as a result, you broke up, and you're like, man, if I had known then what I know now, I would have been a different person. I would have been a different man. I would have been a different woman. Has anybody ever gone through that? I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna just tell y'all the truth. I have a relationship like that. I had a relationship when I was about 24 years old, and I was dating a girl. She was about 3 years younger than me, and we loved each other a lot. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the shit out of Alicia. I just value the shit out of an awesome black woman. That's just who I am. And then I'm never gonna change that. I love black women. Like, I don't think I've ever been attracted to a white woman in my life. I kid you not. I'm no disrespect. If you're white, I'm sorry. It's just true. And but this woman was awesome, and we really loved each other, and we probably could have got married, but we just didn't know how. We didn't know how to get along. Like, we would start arguing over the dumbest shit. Like, it would be the stupidest argument. You ever had that where you have an argument that's so stupid that when people say, what were you fighting about? How did it start? And you can't even remember. It literally might have been something like, you wanted to watch Family Feud and she wanted to watch Jeopardy. And that led to, next thing you know, like, stuff is being burned down and windows are busted and everybody's screaming. Like, or you arguing over pizza. Yeah, like, I want pizza, you want a cheeseburger. Well, you always get pizza. Well, you always tell me what to do. And, well, no, you need to start respecting me. Why are you always talking over me? No, I was talking first. And next thing you know, it gets out of control, right? Here's what I learned. I learned that that there is a way you communicate with people you love. I learned that there is a process, just like the way you play football or basketball or whatever, right? Or you cook a meal, right? There is a process for handling disputes. There's a process for identifying when you're in a fight and de-escalating that. There's a process for identifying the type of people that you don't want to fight with. There's a process, right? And I wish I had known these things, because then we could have handled those things, and those little things that caused our relationship to blow up. We could have prevented that if we'd had good advice. And see, so the problem that you have on the internet is that you have a lot of people, and it's not just the internet, it's in life in general. You have people that will just give you advice in their life, and because they sound confident when they say it, you'll believe it because you're not confident in what you need to do next. So some confident son of a bitch comes along, don't know nothing. But it's funny that, like, the people that know the least tend to act like they know the most. Like the people who I hate that. That's a pet peeve of mine. When the dumbest person in the room is convinced that they're the smartest because they talk the loudest or they have the most confidence, and the confidence is literally built on nothing. And they'll come in, and because they sound confident, and because it rhymes, and because they look good and sound good, you take that advice and you apply that to something in your life, in a situation that you might not be able to take back. You took that, you broke up your family, and now you're not living in the house with your kids anymore because some guy told you, like, man, if a woman did that to me, man, I would put up with that for a minute. No, man, let me just tell you, let me just give you some Uncle Boyce advice. Give me a yes or no if it's okay if I give you, see, here I am. Listen, remember I was talking about taking advice from people that don't know what the hell they're talking about. So you got to trust that I might know what I'm talking about to even consider this advice. But even then, take it with a grain of salt. Take it with a grain of salt. But this is coming from the fact that I'm 49 years old, and I am with a woman that I love very much. And I will tell you this. Every relationship has a unique negotiation. Every relationship is individualized. There is no systematic blueprint for how you negotiate your relationship. And what I mean by that is, you should not allow people who don't know your situation, who don't know you, who are not in your relationship, to tell you what the rules should be in your relationship. They don't know you, they don't know your partner, they don't know what you want, they don't know what trade-offs you're willing to make. And sometimes the trade-offs that we make in a relationship may not be politically correct. Like, as a man, if you really love the hell out of a woman, and she's giving you grief on something that's stupid, and you know you shouldn't have to put up with this, yeah, sometimes you can stand up, but sometimes you make a choice to say, I'm gonna stand down because I want to protect the relationship. Same thing, ladies. You got all these women telling you, "Oh, don't you ever submit to no man. You submit to a man, that makes you weak, and you need to go and just be single like us, and go fuck random guys for the rest of your life." Like you have women out there like that, like women that are dead single, lonely as hell, sitting at home every Friday night, waiting for whatever new piece of penis that happens to be coming by. Sure, they're gonna always come by and hang out with you on a Friday night, but the question is he gonna love you on Tuesday night? Is he going to come pick you up from the hospital when you have breast cancer and you need somebody to wheel you out of that hospital and take you home? Right? Like, there's a difference, right? There's a difference. I mean, men will always show up and offer you, a nice, comfortable evening. But the question is he willing to put up with your shit? Is he willing to go and buy tampons at the grocery store for you, or deal with you when you are in your worst moods, right? So those are different levels. And what I've noticed is that you have a lot of really angry women who are single and lonely, who will tell you stuff that will make you just like them, because you will get to a point where you'll say, gosh, I really don't mind submitting to my man in this situation because I really want my relationship to work, and I want my children to have their father, and I want my man to be happy, and I want to be happy myself, and I want to be in this relationship. And if you go and tell somebody the choice you made, they will ridicule you. They will shame you. There are people that will shame you in the decisions that you make that are best for you. And what I really think has to occur, in my view, is you got to kind of make sure those people only have so much leverage in your life. You let people tell you, like relatives, and stuff. They will tell you to end your relationship, and you'll go do it. And then those people are nowhere around when the consequences come pouring in. When you're sitting there 5 years later, wishing you had that person back, wishing you hadn't given them that ultimatum, and those people are not going to feel those consequences. do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. There's my Instagram. If you want to follow me on Instagram, there it is. It's the real Boyce Watkins. Let me read this to you in this article. It's in the Jamaican Observer, and it's basically titled "How Experts Like Derrick Jaxn Ruined Our Lives." You got to read these testimonials; they're very sad. This one lady is 45, Doris. She says, "I ended my common law relationship on the advice of a pastor who said that after I got baptized, I wasn't supposed to live in sin anymore. And so I gave the father of my children an ultimatum: marry me or else I had to leave. He laughed and asked if I was certain, and told me that the worst thing I could do was to try to pressure a man into such a commitment. I took the kids and went to my mother's house while hoping that he would come to his senses. A year and a half later, he was engaged to the new woman he started living with after me, and he subsequently married her. Years later, I am still single, still waiting for the man the Lord should have provided, and my children resent me for separating them from their father." That comes from Doreth, who's 45 years old. Uh, Tell me if you've seen any situations like this. Let me say this. When I read that particular story, let me tell you this, ladies, just my 2 cents. You almost never win with ultimatums. And actually, I happen to be married to some or marrying a woman who is a relationship therapist, which is sometimes a blessing, sometimes it's a curse. I ain't gonna lie, it can make things challenging sometimes, but there are benefits as well. And one thing that I remember her saying during a class she was teaching was, "You do not give your partner ultimatums. You don't." And the other thing too is giving somebody an ultimatum is really like pulling out a gun. And you know what they say: do not pull out a gun unless you're ready to squeeze the trigger. So if I ever give an ultimatum to somebody in a relationship, whether it's romantic or business or whatever, I tend to give an ultimatum when I really am truly indifferent as to whether or not you're going to stay. Like, I will never bluff with an ultimatum. If I make an ultimatum, I'm fully prepared for you to call, to call my bluff. I'm fully prepared for you to test me and take me to the limit, because by that point, I'm okay with walking away. If you're not okay with walking away, then you probably shouldn't throw out that ultimatum. And what she said was exactly right. When she gave that man that ultimatum, sure, she wanted him to, step up and quote unquote do the right thing. But pressuring a man into marriage, that's like a woman trying to pressure a man. That's like a man trying to pressure a woman into sex. Pressuring a woman does not make her want to have sex with you. In fact, pressuring her in many cases will make her repulsed by you. So smart men know that you don't pressure women into things they don't want to do. It doesn't work. I don't know if y'all know this. I love to watch like Nature Channel and stuff like that, or Discovery Channel, where animals like engage with each other, because it helps me understand humans better actually by watching animals. That tells you what lies in the heart of a human. Professor Ken Sapolsky at Stanford explained that the brain of a human is only like 3 to 5% different from the brain of an animal. So I like to watch what animals do. So let me tell you this: they showed these birds, right? And these birds, these female birds, were sitting there, and of course the males are trying to mate with them. That's what That's what all the men. That's what men just have on our mind all the time. We always thinking about sex. So the male birds would pop up and try to mate with the female. And you know what? And now that I think about it, it wasn't actual male birds. These were fake male birds. And they tested. They had some of the birds that would kind of take their time and let the woman decide what she wanted to do. And then they had other birds who kind of rushed it, who kind of moved faster than the woman wanted to move. And the birds that moved too fast caused the woman to fly away. Right. So the point of the matter is to say, I think men have something like that in them too. When you pressure a man, you give him an ultimatum, there's a good chance he's going to fly away. And it's okay if you want him to fly away. But if you don't want him to fly away and you think you're going to bulldoze him, you're going to debo him into making a certain decision, I don't think that works. Let's see. Lady Dove says, "So is it wrong to tell someone isn't treating you right, to leave that person?" No, I think it's okay to leave the person, but don't assume that leaving the person is going to automatically put you in a better position than you were in before, right? Because so I could say, this ain't right. It's like a job. Think about it like a job, right? I could say, they're only paying me $55,000 a year. I should be making 70, right? I should be making 70. It ain't right that you're paying me 55. If you don't pay me 70, I'm going to quit my job. Well, that makes sense if I can find a better job, right? But maybe it doesn't make sense if I'm going to end up unemployed. So the question becomes, how do you feel? What are your prospects? If your prospects are good, like if you've got $100,000 a year job waiting for you, then yeah, I mean, dump that zero and get with a hero, right? You got a better person or your better situation in front of you. Then and it's clear. Then sometimes you have to make that move. But if you're not sure, then that's the question, right? A lot of times, what can happen is, again, go back to the job analogy. Stay with me now. Is that people can blow your head up and give you a misassessment of what the market will bear for someone of your caliber. So this is where some of the things I hear actually make sense. Where sometimes people will make you think you're a nine when really you're like a five, but people swear to you that you're a nine. So you go out thinking, I'm a nine, like I'm gonna quit this $55,000 a year job because I'm worth at least 80,000 a year. And then you go out and you apply for jobs and you're like, oh, my $80,000 a year job will be here anytime now. And you end up unemployed and you wish you had your $55,000 a year job back, but the job's not available anymore because somebody else saw that as a good opportunity. So a lot of times, so really dating, honestly, dating is, I'm an economist. I understand markets extremely well. Dating is a market. Dating's a market. It's just like matching buyers and sellers and matching prices. So a lot of times people will leave a relationship expecting that they can find something better, and the hard part is that you don't really know if you're going to find something better. And then also you have some people whose instincts are misaligned with the market. So I've seen some people spend their whole lives single because they're spending their lives looking for something that doesn't exist. Or you're looking for the perfect man. He probably doesn't exist. If he's out there, he's very rare. Or you're looking for the perfect woman. I knew a guy. Let's flip the gender. I don't want to make it sound like I'm picking on ladies on this. I knew a guy. He was about 28 years old. He was a young brother that I used to mentor when I was back at Syracuse University. And he met a woman that he was real into church, right? He was real religious. And his goal, for some reason, he was caught up in being with a pure woman, right? Purity was like really important for him, right? So he was like, Dr. Boyce, I really want to find me a pure woman who's a virgin, who isn't, who hasn't been touched by a bunch of men, and this isn't. And I'm kind of like, yeah, well, I don't know, that whole purity thing might be, it ain't what it's cracked up to be. It's kind of overrated, but okay, all right, you want a pure woman, all right. And so he tells me about this woman he met, and he's like, yeah, Dr. Boyce, I was so heartbroken. I said, what happened? He said, oh, we got along really well, and she pretended like she really liked me, and we would get together and pray, and I thought she was a virgin and that she was pure. And then one of my friends came to me and said, man, you might want to watch out for this girl because I've been sleeping with her. And he said, Dr. Boyce, I couldn't believe it, that I thought she was pure and she was just a hoe. And I kind of had to say to him, really? Again, that purity thing's a little bit overrated, and also most women really aren't that pure. And they just, the game is kind of like, most women just kind of pretend to be pure to make you feel better, like they pretend, but really, and really, I mean, a woman who's pure might not really know what she's doing when you get in the bedroom. So maybe you want somebody that's had got a little bit of experience. It's not always such a bad thing. And I said, and they said, yeah, but she pretended like she liked me and she was praying with me. I said, she probably wasn't pretending that she liked you. She probably really did like you, but she probably also wanted to have sex. And she wanted to fulfill this unreasonable expectation that you put on her, that she needs to be pure. So she gave you the fantasy. She gave you the lie because she knew you couldn't handle the truth. The truth is that she probably wanted to be fucking you instead of fucking him, but because you are on this stupid purity kick, she's gonna have sex with him until you come around. I'm sorry. I know that I don't know how that sounds, but that's what I was really thinking. And I really think that we in many cases we just misassess things. We misassess people. We don't know what love looks like all the time, and we have people tell us like, well, somebody loves you, they're gonna do this and they're gonna do that. I really think you should listen to yourself a little bit more. Like I really do. I really think that if you're happy with your situation, seriously, like if you're with somebody, let's say like I can tell you the truth, like Like when in the relationship that I'm in, yeah, I saw a couple of videos. It kind of made me sad. There was literally one YouTube channel of a guy that I actually kind of admired. I kind of watched his channel. I was supporting it, and he does a video saying Dr. Boyce is a simp, and I'm like, I'm a simp. How did I become a simp? And he said I was a simp because I'm okay with telling everyone how much I love my black woman. That's very important to me. I think black women are neglected. I think we need to express love for black women. We all came from a fucking black woman. What's wrong with you? And it was, but at the end of the day, like, and I again, this is the benefit of just being grown. You just don't give a shit what people say that much because they ain't living your life. They don't have the consequences for your choices the way you do. You will be the one who will bear the consequence of that decision. So if you're happy in your situation, even if everybody's like, oh, well, I would never let somebody do that to me, or oh, she said that to you, oh man, I would never put up with that. You better not listen to those people. You better not. It happens a lot in church to women. Let me tell you about the pimp game in church. This is a Derrick Jaxn type thing. There are a lot of pimps in the pulpit. There are a lot of men. Deborah, there was a real angry feminist who wrote a really good article though. She was very angry though, very bitter type woman. But she wrote an article about the black church keeping women single and lonely. And you know what? She was 100% correct because she talked about how a lot of the men in the church, the deacons and the bishops and the pastors and all this other stuff, will tell the women like, oh, well, don't you shouldn't date a man if he doesn't come to church or if he don't profess Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. You need to da 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 da, right? And will tell you to delete good men out of your life also, and really at the end of the day, men can see right through that. They basically know what's going on. Okay, so you're saving all the vagina for yourself. You want all the women in the church to only have one choice. You want them to only want to come towards you when you go to her house and you laying hands on her and all this and praying with her. And we know that, I mean, Kirk Franklin, all those guys pretty much explained to you and showed you that they get just as horny as every other man. And so this idea of being this perfect, pure specimen where you don't have the same temptations of the flesh that every other man on the planet has is ridiculous. But there are people who believe that nonsense. And so the church is really responsible for keeping a lot of women single and lonely because they give you very shallow, one-dimensional criteria to evaluate the quality of a man. A man's quality is not determined just by whether he goes to church. There's a lot of good men who will treat you like a goddess, who would never set foot in anybody's church, who don't want to give money to your pastor. That don't make him a bad man. I'm not telling you what to choose. I'm not telling you, you can believe what you want to believe. But I'm just telling you, I love the hell out of my woman, but I don't go to church. I just don't. It's not, no, I don't want to go to, I'm not going to sit there. I'd rather stay home and sleep or watch football. Like, that's what I'm going to do on Sunday. I'm not going to church. God can come to my house. He makes house calls. I'm okay with that. So God, the universe, spirituality, all that's a part of my household. But getting up and getting dressed on Sunday to go to church is not one of the things that we do. That does not make us bad people. And also, there are a lot of people who do all those things who are not good people, who will ruin your life. Do you know how many women's lives have been ruined by pastors? Not that all pastors do this. Not that all pastors are bad. I told you, I don't speak negatively on the black church. I think the black church has a lot of great potential, a lot of great people. But y'all know that there's some ratchetry in the church too. Y'all know that there are many people who take advantage of that hypnotic power over women in particular that pastors have, because black women are the most religious group of people in America. And if you're waiting on Jesus to be your husband, that's a little bit like those women who lean on the government as their man, who are waiting for the check from the government. And the government says, well, you can get a check as long as you ain't got a man in the house. So the government becomes your man. Well, when Jesus is your boyfriend, your husband, whatever, it's kind of a weird thing because your bed usually doesn't have room for both Jesus and a man to be in it. Like, one of those guys is going to have to leave. And so it becomes kind of a tough dilemma, I think. So anyway, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe button. Let me read another testimonial from a lady in the Jamaican Observer. This article, the title of the article is How Experts Like Derrick Jaxn Ruined Our Lives. So this lady, her name is Shauna. She's 32. She says, I grew up in a church where the greatest sin was to be unequally yoked with a partner. So when I met this great guy at university, I knew that even though he was perfect, The fact that he was Catholic and I an Adventist meant that we couldn't have a serious relationship. He was all for it, and I even toyed with the idea and hypothetically raised the issue with my mentor, who immediately rubbished the idea. So that was set. No way could we ever be more than friends. Fast forward years later, I am unhappily married to someone from my faith, and he is happily married to an Adventist girl whose family obviously didn't have the same concerns mine would have. She still practices her faith, and he goes to his church, and somehow they make it work. Omar 30 says, my friends told me that a girl I liked, quote, belonged to the streets, end quote. And even though I said her past didn't matter, they wouldn't stop dissing her whenever I mentioned her name. So I stopped showing interest and moved my attention elsewhere. And wouldn't you know it, one of the same guys who used to crucify her started dating her, and now they have a kid together. Oh, that's a good one too. That's a real good one. A lot of people that will tell you to leave the person that you're with will be dating that person months later. I'm serious. Like a lot of times, you got to be real cautious about people that tell you to walk away from stuff, because there may be a sinister motivation there. I remember when I was about 25, there was an older guy who was much older, like maybe 25 years older than me actually, and he was kind of like a spiritual advisor to the girl I was dating or something like that. And he started talking to me and tried to take me under his wing like a mentor or something. And I listened to him, but I didn't really need a mentor. I don't really follow people too. I critically think, so I critically analyze everything. So even back then at 25, it was hard to get like too much past me. I'm gonna analyze everything, and all the guy kept saying over and over and over again was that my girlfriend wasn't right for me. We needed to part ways. We weren't good for each other. She was gonna hurt me. Like everything was negative. And then he would talk to her, and he would tell her the same thing, like, "Oh, he's no good. He's a blah blah blah." And then one day, she and I compared notes, and I said, well, he said this to me about you. And she's like, what? He said those things about me? I said, yeah. And she's like, well, he told me this about you. So we compared notes. And then another thing we noticed was he was kind of a spiritual teacher. Again, one of those pure, holier than thou type dudes. Again, like he was kind of like in the position of a pastor, except he wasn't in the actual Baptist church or anything like that. It was like an African religion, but still pimp in the pulpit type situation. Well, check this out. What I really noticed was he had these students that would all kind of learn from him. And I noticed that he had three wives, and all three of his wives used to date his students. So somehow his pimp game was so strong, he would bring in a student and convince the student to break up with his girlfriend. And next thing you know, his girlfriend became his woman, or the guy's girlfriend would become the pimp's woman. And I watched this happen, and it was really fascinating to watch. And I also remember I talked to one of my friends about it because he was one of his teachers or whatever. And I didn't want him to be my teacher. I was like, I got stuff to do. I'm in grad school and all that. I ain't got time for this stuff. But he was real deep into it. And I told him, I said, man, you better be careful, because we figured out that me and my girl figured out that he's trying to get with her. Like that's what's going on. So we distance ourselves from him. And he said, no, I'm not gonna talk bad on my teacher. He wanted to do this whole loyalty thing. No, I can't talk bad on my teacher. And next thing you know, his girlfriend, I kid you not, this is a true story. She was living with the teacher and having sex with the teacher. And so my point is to say that you have to really be careful about people that are close to you who are telling you to get rid of the person that you're with, because you don't know what their intention is. You don't know how that's going to end up. And also, more specifically with this guy, you know, that's kind of, the way the preachers will tell the women that the man needs to be equally yoked, and so women will dump a good man because because they want to go meet some guy in the church who's going to beat their ass and treat them like crap. Well, the same thing is true with guys. Like a lot of guys, like just like that story I told you about the kid I knew who was into this whole purity thing, like a woman had to be pure, and he lost a good woman because he felt she wasn't pure enough. I've seen that as well, where a guy might be with a woman who has made some mistakes, who has maybe expressed herself sexually or whatever, and because he doesn't want to be seen as a guy trying to turn a hoe into a housewife, he might walk away from a good woman and end up with some prude who doesn't make him happy, when really if you can kind of get past that, like I really think I can say that to the guys, like an element of maturity is when you get to the point where you're not judging women on their sexual choices as much as you did before. Because really, what you find out is that everybody likes sex. I don't care who like that. That's one of the things that I saw when I heard Derrick Jaxn talk. I said, no man is that pure. I said, this guy. I said, I wonder if anybody's ever going to find out about all the women in his audience that he's probably sleeping with. Everybody likes sex, and there's nothing wrong with that because sex is natural. That's how human beings come into existence. We are the only country. Well, maybe there are a couple others, but this is the weirdest thing where we walk around acting like people don't get sexually aroused all day, every day. Like it happens everywhere. And then when somebody gets caught, they're like, "Oh my God, he looked at her booty. What the hell? What's going on?" Or, "Oh no, it turns out that she had sex with somebody." What? Like that's not a surprise. Human beings have sex. That's what they do. That's how people are born. So it's kind of weird to me that you can't even get good advice because people are not even being realistic. And so I really think that for guys getting caught up in who a girl was with and all this other stuff, I think there's a point to that, right? Like, so for example, if I were single and I met a woman who like says, "Oh yeah, my baby's daddy is the rapper Future," I'd probably be concerned about that because Future probably don't use condoms. He probably got diseases, right? And whatever, right? So I would be concerned about that. But I think in terms of just being, because like this idea that somehow everything's supposed to be super perfect and pure, that's just a lie. Like that's just a myth. Like that's just an illusion she creates for you so that you don't feel bad, because she probably knows that your ego can't handle it. And really the best way to get close to a person, I believe, is to try to accept them. Just accept them for who they are, all the choices they made. And then what'll happen is, if you accept a person, if you just let them know, "I'm not going to judge you, I just want to understand you and hear you," then they will tell you everything you need to know about themselves. They will tell you everything. When I talk to my girls about guys, I say, "Look, if you want to understand a guy and deal with what you and know what you're dealing with, just listen to him and don't judge. And then he will talk, and eventually he will tell on himself. Like if there's something that you need to know, or if there's a red flag, you will eventually find it, because he won't defend that territory. He's gonna feel like he can just let it all out." So that's just a little little thought, just a little Uncle Boy statement. Take it or leave it. It may not work for you. Here's another one. This is from Anthony. Now, the title of the article again, hit the thumbs up button. Please take a second, hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. It's called "How Experts Like Derrick Jaxn Ruined Our Lives." It's in Jamaican Observer. Okay, so this one is from Anthony, who's 45. He says, "This happened years ago when I was a youth in church, climbing through the ranks. I would take this girl to church with me. I liked her a lot. A lot. And I saw her as my future wife, but she didn't belong to the same faith. And even though she would visit my church, she refused to stop wearing makeup or jewelry. I didn't mind personally, as I loved her independence, and God was she fascinating. But my relationship with God meant that pretty soon I was moving up in the church, and I was soon appointed youth pastor. Then the talk started with the elders. I would soon have to settle down, and they started suggesting the names of suitable women in the church. I was in a dilemma: choose the girl I liked and leave, or choose someone else who was more in line with my teachings of my faith. I chose the latter, and my girl was totally devastated. When I say she took it hard, I'm not kidding. She took it so hard that when I told her about my engagement, she migrated. Fast forward to today. I'm still married with a kid, and so is the only woman I ever loved. I still keep up with her on social media, and we've met up a couple times, and she seems happy. But I can't help but wondering, what if I had followed my heart all those years ago? I would have been more content in my life." Let me just tell you, I'm not here to tell anybody how to be religious, but I will say that religion ruins a lot of good, happy relationships, because people just give you these stupid rules that you somehow feel like you have to live by. And I'm not against God. I'm not against faith. I'm not against spirituality. I'm not against any of that. Like I apply all those things to my life, but I really think that allowing people that don't understand your life, that don't have to live your life, to make decisions for you, or somebody saying, "No, no, it's stupid to date him instead." They don't have to live with him like that, or if they're looking down on one girl and telling you to pick another one. I don't know. I just don't think that that's the best way to live. And I think that that's one of the biggest things I've learned over time, is that other people are not living your life. Do not let other people have too much say in the choice you make. A lot of times we do that because we're not confident in our own choices. Well, you got to learn to gain that confidence. You know your situation better than anybody else. Shelley says, I was taught to save myself from my husband, and even though there were episodes where there was temptation, I managed to stay pure. There you go, that word pure. It was something that was celebrated when I was getting married. Pastor gave a whole speech about purity and how I, even at 34, had obeyed God's word. Well, wouldn't you know that after the wedding night, I realized that it wasn't that serious, and now I wish I had more experience. I love my husband, but sometimes I wonder if this is it, if this is all the life I'm supposed to live, because from what I've read and watched on TV, he's not giving me all of that. And I wish I didn't miss out because I feel disappointed. Yeah, that's another one too. Like I think, again, remember I was telling you, I think the whole purity thing is kind of overrated. And I saw something in Essence or somewhere where this lady said she saved herself till marriage, and then she found out her husband's not, compatible with her in the bedroom. And this is one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of trying to be pure in that category. I personally think that, again, while respecting the process, right? I think that sleeping with a person is kind of a sacred act. Remember, I mean, you're kind of peeking at the universe, so to speak. Like you're taking a dip into eternity by the fact that a person could come out of this, right? Like you could actually have a baby out of this. A human being can come out of this process. So this is not just about pleasure. Like this is literally, you're literally playing with God, because if something goes wrong, which it does in many occasions, a person can come out of this. Like a whole life can be lived, and a whole spawn of generational, curses can come from the fact that you chose to sleep with that person. But I do think that experience is a way to have a more fulfilling life. I don't really know if sort of sitting there and being perfect and pure is the best way to go, because you're going into a lot of situations very blind. Like, so you get married, now you're locked in for life. You've never slept with another person before. You've never even slept with the person that you're going to be sleeping with for the rest of your life. I don't know how that can work out. I just don't think that's going to be optimal. But I think at the same time, though, you also live in a world where you have rappers like, Cardi B and others, and Lil Nas X or whatever, telling you should just sleep with whoever and do whatever, whenever. And that's not healthy either. I mean, people expect you to get all upset about the Rona. Well, there's a whole lot of stuff out here much worse than the Rona getting passed around, because people don't take their they don't protect their bodies in an appropriate way. They don't have any sort of discernment, and I think that's another way to put yourself in bad situations. So what I would just say is this. I'll say at the end of the day, uh, don't worry about people's judgment as much as you have been told to. I think women get judged like crazy about staying pure and, not being a hoe and this, that, and the other. I'm not recommending that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not, I don't encourage my daughters to go out and become big hoes, but at the same time, I don't put the hammer down in terms of being overly judgmental about how they feel and how they express themselves as human beings. I know that all of this is a part of life. And really, at the end of the day, I want them to be safe and healthy and happy. And does that mean that, a little bit of sex is going to be involved? Of course it does. But it also means having that ability to pick the right kind of man without much interference, right? With good advice, but not a bunch of this stupid advice. There's so much stupid advice out here. And I just sit here and I just crack up. There was another lady who used to write for The Root, who used to give relationship advice over there. And I remember I met her one time, and she was a nice lady, but I remember thinking, gosh, she's a relationship advice person, but I would never date this lady. I was like, wow, she doesn't do anything for me as a man. But maybe she didn't care. Maybe she didn't find me attractive. I don't know. But I wasn't going to hit on her. I was totally single at the time, but I had no interest. And so anyway, later on she gets married, and when she got married, I remember thinking, she's gonna end up um, divorced. There's no way. Who would marry her? Because she was kind of mean, and men don't like mean women. And lo and behold, she was divorced like a year later. And it just kind of made me think about, the fact that in the beginning, I don't know if she had any credentials to begin with. I don't know what her credentials were, but I don't think she had any licenses, any degrees, nothing in that area. So the question becomes, what made her a relationship advice guru? Well, it was the fact that somebody gave her a platform and let her talk. And a lot of times when people are giving you advice about your life on very serious issues, they're kind of shooting from the hip. They're kind of just telling you what comes to mind. Like they're just kind of thinking, they're just sort of waking up and they're thinking about something and they come up with a thought and they're like, "Oh, this is the thought." And it doesn't have much of a foundation, especially when we talk about somebody like a Derrick Jaxn who hasn't really lived that much life. Derrick is 31 years old. You think you know a lot when you're 31, you really do. Like when I was 31, I thought I knew everything. But about a decade later, you realize how stupid you were. Like about a decade later, you're looking back and you're like, God, I wish I knew then what I know now. And then you go almost 2 decades later, it's even more dramatic. So I really think if you want to get good advice, here's what I'll leave you with in terms of where to get good advice in my view. One, if somebody has some sort of foundation for what they're sharing with you, that's a good thing, right? If they've got degrees and credentials and licenses, then that at least means that they've learned some scientifically tested techniques that can help you to achieve your goal. Very important. Secondly, experience is everything. So if I am going to figure out how to get married, and then ideally it helps if I saw it happen. If I got to watch every day, a lot of kids don't get this as much as they used to, but this is what I got. I got to sit there and watch every day, watch my parents negotiate a 46-year marriage. I got to watch them in their good moments, their bad moments. I got to see them argue over everything from kids to money to, who paid the light bill, and watched how they resolved those issues. I watched my mother submit consistently to my father, who would probably be called a sexist and a man with toxic masculinity. And I watched my father submit to my mother in situations where a lot of men would have called him a simp because he was surrendering to a woman that he felt the need to surrender to in that particular moment. So I did not see the idealistic textbook bullshit that people feed you when you got somebody who's never seen a real relationship work, but they're giving you advice on what a relationship is supposed to look like. I didn't see that. I didn't see anything that fit some sort of protocol for political correctness. I didn't. I did not see my mother as the strong feminist who cuss a man out at the drop of a hat because he doesn't believe women deserve the same pay. I didn't see some man who was such a fucking manly man that he'll slap a hoe and put a bitch in her place and she get out of line. I didn't see all of that. I saw a range of emotional and psychological dispositions that my parents had to take in a wide variety of situations that were determined by the gravity of the moment with which they were engaged at that time. I saw them, I never saw them as one thing. I never always saw my father as a strong man. Sometimes I had to see him surrender. I never saw my mother always as the big, strong feminist. Sometimes I had to see her surrender to my father in a way that would have probably infuriated a lot of feminists who would have told her to get rid of him. Girl, you need to get rid of him. You're better off without him. Well, fuck you. You think my household would be better off without my father in it? You can kiss my entire black ass because I needed my father. Do you understand how my life would have fallen apart? People don't give a damn about their kids. They will kick a man out for nothing. And then the kids being there suffering, suicidal, out in the streets, killing people, going to prison, and they act like it just happened out of the blue. No, fathers matter. Fathers matter. So everybody out here dogging black men and for every little thing and getting mad and saying that you're better off without him in the house. People like that, to me, are absolute enemies of the black family. It does not mean on any level that you should forgive every trifling thing any guy does. You've heard me blast behavior that I just think is absolutely ridiculous. But at the same time, whoever told you that your kids don't need their daddy and that you only need to be thinking about the status of your relationship and how happy and fulfilled you feel, and that you should throw him out of a bowl of Cheerios and have your kids without a daddy and thinking you could be the daddy and the mom at the same time. Those people are not your friends. Those people are basically abusing your children right in front of you and making you the abuser. I'm not here to attack anybody whose relationship didn't work out. Join the club. A lot of people's relationships don't work out. We know this, right? We know the life that we live. But I'm just here to say that people who tend to be successful at this, and really almost anything, whether you're talking about making money or building a strong relationship, you can't sort of take cookie cutter approaches to these things because relationships are hard. If you come into things with a fairy tale expectation, you're going to be sorely disappointed, and you're going to spend your whole life pissed off and bitter because nobody ever meets your stupid little idealistic bullshit expectation that came from somebody like a Derrick Jaxn, somebody who fed you a bunch of nonsense so that you will go buy his book. And then next thing you know, you're taking this advice, applying it to real life, harming your kids in the process, throwing out good people left and right in your life because they don't meet some stupid artificial standard that somebody gave you. And the next thing you know, not only are you lonely, but you have left a trail of blood and tears in the background. You have a lot of hurt people that have had their lives ruined because you're not taking a moment to actually get real advice from a really, truly productive, healthy professional. And I'm not dissing Derrick Jaxn on this. This is not to say he doesn't have a right to speak or that he doesn't know anything. Some of the things that he might have said might have been fine. No question about that. But at the end of the day, man, you got to think about the gravity of your choices and stop trying to fit into a political correctness box. It never works. Life does not work that way, period. I got to go. Thank you guys for listening. It was great talking to you. If you could, please hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. And I will see you soon. Take care. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to co-sign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.